Hey listeners, Dan Harris here, host of the 10% Happier podcast. Imagine all your audio entertainment available in just one place. That's what the Audible app is all about. With Audible, you can always find the best of what you love or discover something new. Audible has an incredible selection of wellness titles and originals like The Light Podcast by Michelle Obama, Work It Out by Mel Robbins, and Confidence Gap by Russ Harris. Membership includes access to Audible Originals, podcasts, and tons of audiobooks that you can download or stream as much as you want. And as an Audible member, you can choose one title per month from an ever-growing catalog of titles to keep. The Audible app makes it easy to listen anytime, anywhere, whether you're traveling, working out, doing chores, wherever your day takes you. New members can try Audible now free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/Harris or text Harris to 500-500.
The weather is cooling down a bit. The leaves are starting to fall. Yes, it's that time of year again, football season. And we all know the best part of any game day traditions are the ones that involve food. There's nothing like having everyone in your game day crew coming together to bring their best bites and argue over whose family makes the best chili. And while there's no need to mess with the perfection of game day classics, like a freshly grilled Oscar Mayer hot dog topped with Heinz ketchup and mustard, it's always fun to step out of your comfort zone and get creative with your recipes. Because there's nothing more fun than adding to your list of game day traditions, like making a creamy and delectable queso dip with Velveeta cheese that can be eaten with so much more than just chips. Now is the chance for people across the nation to find out whose game day eats reign supreme. It's your turn to show off your tasty game day food traditions. Go to www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to share a photo of your game day food tradition to enter to win $10,000. Once again, that's www.gamedayfoodtraditions.com to enter to win $10,000.
You know, it's a great subject, Tom, the subject of nicknames in hockey. There's some really, really good ones. Some of the ones that come out to mind, of course, Mario Magnifique, and a great one. But did you have a nickname when you played?
Well, so I had a couple. Lades was the easy one, right? That's a lot of hockey nicknames. But my first year in the leagues, I can't remember where it came from. I think it was somebody here locally wrote an article that I was a legend in my own time up in Marquette, Michigan, where I at school. Of course, I don't see it that way, right?
Well, maybe a little bit.
Right. So the older guys especially saw that, and they're giving it to me, like, "Oh, you're a legend." You're like, I really like brought it in. So they started calling me Ledge.
Oh my God.
So we'll go play. Well, you saw it. We were down in Philly, and Eddie Hospodar called me Ledge.
Yeah.
And so I don't hear it much anymore because most of those guys are gone from the area. Like most of the guys call me Tommy or Lades, whatever.
Yeah.
So somebody that like Ledge, where does that come from?
That's what I thought. I was like, oh my God. But then it makes perfect sense when he explains it.
Yeah.
You know, most, like you said, most hockey names you add a Y at the end.
Yeah.
You know, or you just like shorten the name. But there's some really great hockey names out there. I played with a goalie. His name was Carl Muller, but he was Carl the Truth. And they gave it to him after a boxer, Carl the Truth Williams. But it's a great nickname for a goaltender. There's some derogatory ones too, like Richard Liner was Plexi Rexy, right?
Whereas some girls call them Sexy Rexy.
Well, that's better. Yeah. Plexi Rexy for missing the net.
Yeah, Bubba.
Yeah, Bubba. Where'd that come from?
Bubba back. I think he came from Junior because he's just such a big guy. And who else was there?
Well, we had Dennis Maruk on. His nickname was Pee Wee, which isn't really a great nickname. You know about that too.
And then who? Gerard Gallant had just got fired. He was Spuds, wasn't he?
No, he was Turk.
Turk, that's right. Who was Spuds? Somebody else. So the potatoes are growing out in Eastern Canada.
Yeah.
And the guy was from there. Who called him Spuds? Or somebody else called him Spudsy or something.
Well, there's ones like Shanahan is Shanny and Yag.
Steve Richard was called the General.
Was he really?
Yeah, because he kind of had that military thing about him. Like,
Messier his nickname was always Moose.
Right.
Then I guess I don't know when it changed. When did he become
the Messiah?
Yeah, the Messiah.
I think after '94.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who else could. Bomber, Kenny Baumgartner.
Anyone have a crazy nickname that just was, well, Rick Middleton told us he was always known as Nifty, but then his original nickname was Silky.
Yeah.
Named after a stripper, a male stripper in drag.
That he did not know was male.
He had no clue.
He was funny telling that story too. He didn't want to, and we talked to him.
No, yeah, he did. He came to, well, Gordie Howe was Mr. Hockey. Like, it doesn't get better than that. Bobby Orr didn't really have a nickname.
Yeah, Boxcar Hospodar.
Oh, Boxcar.
Bobby Orr did not have one.
And Hospodar, it's great. He told us, how'd you get the nickname? Just because I hit like a boxcar.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
Wasn't Derek Sanderson one? Wasn't he Turk as well?
He was Turk also. Yeah, that's right. Espo was obviously Espo.
Yeah. John Davidson, JD.
Yeah, that one's easy.
Grash was Grash. James Patrick was Jeep.
But I'm thinking like the creative one.
Yeah, I know. Well, man, I can't forget him right now.
Don Maloney what was his nickname? The Senator.
No, you know what else it was? It was Big Frame.
What, Big Frame?
Yeah. Well, so I got it out of him. Dave told me that when they were kids, he worked in construction, and all the other workers, I guess Don was pretty big, so they called him Big Frame.
What? He was a big guy?
He wasn't that big. No, I guess he must have been a bigger kid than everybody else.
But he's also nicknamed the Senator. What was that about?
I don't think I ever called him the
So
Senator.
Dave did.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, I'm on the show.
I think he calls him that more now because of the way he acts now.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Andre Dory, Trapdoor.
That's a great name.
Yeah.
It's just a stupid nickname. But
Oh,
it sticks,
oh, yeah.
Right?
That's the funny thing about nicknames in the NHL. Like, you're adolescent, you're acting like you're 12 years old.
right.
You come up with these names, but that's.
I guess it's team building. Was there someone who's like the leader who plays into that?
Well, I did a lot of that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Well, especially once I past the first couple of years, now you're more of a veteran player. Because I was nonstop in the locker room. I know that's hard to believe, but
it is hard to believe. We'll find some other ones.
I remember walking the locker room. Like I would love getting into the locker room, and I just nonstop. Like I was just wired. And I'd leave the locker room after, and I wasn't like that getting to the locker room. And once I got home, I was sitting there.
So wired? You mean like you work in the room? You're like making jokes, talking to people.
I just had so much fun. Like being in the game. It wasn't just the playing in the game or the practices. It was being around the guys, the locker room humor. Like I was always yapping at people. Nicky Fatio and I would sit beside each other, and Herb Brooks would come walking in, and we'd both pretend that like I would say that Nicky was Herb's stepson or nephew or something like that. I say, "Your son's over here, Herbie," and Herbie's always like, "Fuck nephew." Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, he wasn't really mad. He was like that was his kind of role, and he knew that.
So he played that gruff old guy, like,
"Oh yeah,
get off my lawn."
Well, Nicky was Pie Face. Yeah.
Who gave him that nickname?
I think Gresh and I both gave him that. Gresh may have given it to him before I got there.
Did he want to smack you for that nickname or no?
No, I think he kind of like, yeah.
He took it?
Yeah. Eddie Johnson was Siggy because he smoked cigarettes all the time.
Okay. Oh, Dwayne Sutter was Dog.
Yep.
Which is a great nickname.
So Stash, Dash, and Bash. You know what line that was? Out of Hartford. Stash was Blaine Stoughton.
Because of his mustache.
Yeah. Dash was Mike Rogers.
Oh, Rogers. Okay.
And then Bash was Pat Boutet.
Ah, okay.
Because he was the tough.
Yeah, he's a tough little guy. That's right.
Yeah.
Ah, so there are some nicknames there.
Yeah. So remember Shell Samuelson, the big guy?
Of course.
You remember Manu Bowl, the basketball player?
Yes, yeah.
So we would call Shell Bowl.
Oh, no. I knew he was, I don't know if it was with you guys, but they nicknamed him the Swedish tripod a lot because of his skating ability.
Yeah. He was actually a good guy too. Like at first when I called him the Shell Bowl, I gave him that one. He looked at me like, what?
He didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
Because he was what, 6'8"?
Yeah. Good guy too, man. He was really a good team. All those Swedes, we talked about it before, the Swedes, the Finns, and everything were really good team players. Jan Eriksson, what was he?
Should have been a Selke winner.
Yeah, can't remember what his nickname was.
He was such a good shadow too. Yeah, hard to play against.
Well, that's a good question about the nicknames. Eddie Mio was Potato Head. He did not like that at all.
Why would he like that?
When he got straight, I think he was in Detroit. And he was walking by the bus. We opened up the window and said, "Hey, Potato Head." Oh
no! But then there's some classic ones like Stevie Y. That's easy.
Yeah. Steve Vickers was Sarge.
Oh yeah, Sarge. Why? That mustache? Like, why would he be called Sarge?
I think probably was the mustache. Yeah.
Let me like Cat Francis. Yeah. Was it because of Sergeant Slaughter? Is it?
Yeah, probably Sergeant Slaughter. I think.
Oh, that's great.
What was Walt Kachuk? He was something too. I can't remember.
But Keith Kachuk is nicknamed Walt.
Yeah.
And now it's Big Walt.
Yeah. That's right.
Which is
great. That's after Walt.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody started calling him Walt.
Yeah.
That was the Walt Kachuk before. I'm trying to think. B squared. Brian Berardi client mine was B squared.
It's easy. The Magic Man, Ken Nielsen. That's another great name.
Well, Pavel Datsyuk too.
Another.
So they had Dan Cleary. They had a video of Dan Cleary on the Red Wings sitting on the training table, and Datsyuk was right beside him. So he got on to Siri and said, "Siri, what is Pavel Datsyuk's nickname?" And I guess even Siri knew that it was Magic Man.
Oh, really? Yeah. So wow, that's awesome. Mark Pavlich, my favorite player, was the fishing magician, but that wasn't really. I don't think it's stuck.
We called it Pav.
Yeah, it's easier.
Isn't it hockey players are such?
You're nuts. You're all nuts. But anyone who even players, we have a lot of high school kids listening to the show and younger players, and they, they're the same culture. Nicknames, chirps.
I want the video. I think it's in Minnesota every year. They have the kids with the long hair.
Oh, that's great. Like that's, yeah, the all hair.
Like it's tradition now.
And they're just they go all in on it. And they sell out months in advance.
Oh, is that right?
Oh my God, that's a really hot ticket to get. Yeah,
it is funny. I look back at the hockey career, whether you're a kid like 7 years old or 37-year-old veteran, you're still acting like a little kid.
Still act.
That was one of the funniest things. Like Larry Robinson, Phyllis Mazzito.
Big Bird.
Yeah, Big Bird, Larry Robinson. I'll never forget. I may not have told you the story. So Phyllis Mazzito, my first year in the league is the last year in the league.
Okay.
And we would play this stupid little game where we'd hold your finger and your thumb in a circle.
Oh, the gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that still goes on.
So we would play the gotcha game. Yeah. And I'm playing here, a rookie in the NHL playing gotcha.
21 years old, 20 years old, whatever.
And Phil's totally into it too. Like he's just,
so he looks down at your pants pocket. You got the circle with your thumb, and you're like, gotcha.
Yeah, but then if we played it, that if you got the person, you punch the shoulder and then wipe it off each time. Now, if you could break the circle, then you got to punch the other guy. Right.
So you're playing,
and you have to have it below the waist too, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah. So you're playing this. You're like, here I am playing gotcha with Phil Esposito.
There's a few stories about Phil. Did I tell you a story about the fireplace when we went to his?
No.
So he invited. It was a first Thanksgiving in New York. Phil invited us to his place in the city. His wife, I think, at the time was making us the Thanksgiving dinner.
Probably nice. Italian Thanksgiving.
Yeah. And so there was Ron Duguay, Barry Beck, and Ron Greshner, and Dave Silk and myself. I guess I can tell a story. So they were late.
Do you want to wait till Phil comes on?
They were. I will repeat it. No, he probably wouldn't remember. But they had fired up the doobie after.
Okay.
It was a big fat.
Wait, are you saying marijuana?
Yes, it was marijuana.
Which is now legal.
Yes. So here I am again. Phil Esposito's getting high, and I'm with Phil Esposito. Like, if I had a cell phone, I would have been calling my buddies back home. I said, "This is unbelievable. I'm getting stoned with Phil Esposito."
Yeah, I'm smoking Jays with Phil.
So he's had a few glasses of wine and then the turkey dinner. So now he's tired. So it's not like he passed out, but he kind of leaned back, and his head was.
He's just chilling.
Yeah, his head wasn't all the way in the fireplace. It was close enough, and he's starting to fall asleep. Now, Duguay, Greshner, and Beck are just dying laughing. They go, Phil's hair's going to catch on fire. So Silk and I have to grab him by a leg and pull him out of the fireplace. We got home, and I got on the phone with my buddies. He says, "You won't believe what happened. I just pulled Phil Esposito out of the fireplace." Wow. Oh, man, it was funny. It was one of those scenes where you're saying to yourself, I cannot believe this is happening.
But you are at the time pinching yourself and going,
totally.
This is insane. What's going on in my life right now?
Yeah, because it wasn't like I've had like 7 or 8 years in the NHL to experience a whole bunch of things.
You're a kid.
It's Phil Esposito, for God's sakes. I've dreamed my whole life of being on the ice.
You're just breaking sticks over your head a couple years earlier, and now you're out there.
I pulled Phil out of the fireplace.
If you like the podcast, share it, leave a review, and keep listening.
Do it now.
Enjoy the show.
This is Full Change with Tom Laidlaw.
All right, Tom, we got an excellent show today. We have a guy who almost broke many hearts in 1994 when he stood on his head in a playoff run for the Vancouver Canucks. We have Kirk McLean today.
Mr. McLean, how you doing, brother? Good to see you.
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you guys?
Very good. I remember back, about 20 years ago, we were kind of neighbors, right? Living in the same area?
Yeah. Well, 20, I guess it would be 20, 21 years old. I'm going back to thinking about 94 since you introduced that, but no, my time in New York for sure, yeah.
Kirk, do you have PTSD from your time living here lately?
I do have PTSD, absolutely. We're getting old. We're getting experience. That's what it is. Not old. Yeah.
So we still don't make those stupid mistakes. Well, not as many stupid mistakes anymore.
That's right.
That's right. So where'd you grow up, Kirk?
I grew up in Toronto, basically 10 minutes outside of the city center, just up the Don Valley Parkway, and played my minor hockey in the MTHL for the Don Mills Flyers. When I started playing in travel teams, I started house league hockey like we all do with a team called Agincourt Civitan, and then jumped to the Scarborough Hockey Association, which was created back then, to Agincourt Lions, and then slowly worked my into the AAA, or the major division of rep hockey through Don Valley Villagers, and then into the Don Mills Flyers.
Now, were you a goalie right off the bat?
Not right off the bat. I started my first year of hockey was basically a hockey school. It was called the Scarborough Lions Hockey Academy, and it was held at Birchmount Arena, if anybody knows where that is. And it was just,
you got a good memory though.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I ended up, because I played soccer in the summer, and all these recreation centers or these ice rinks always had a soccer pitch beside it, so it was very familiar. And it was just all about learning the game and working on your skills, and seeing if you actually like playing the game. And became interested in goaltender. There was a goalie school that came on afterwards, and at that time it was the era of the painted mask, face mask. So that was kind of intriguing, and so I'd always bug my father to stick around and watch a little bit. They had a kind of a drill sergeant goalie coach at the time. A puck machine was being used, so it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So that interested me, and I became very quickly a Bernie Parent and Jacques Plante fan. So when their early years in Toronto, or late years in Toronto, I guess. Yeah. And then started my my minor hockey and house league as a forward, and fell into the goalie position about halfway through my second year in house league hockey, where we needed a goaltender, and two of us put our hands up and rotated that last half of the year, and I had some pretty good success. Right. I made the All-Star team for the house league, and just stuck with it right after that. Yeah.
You always impressed me as a more intelligent guy, more than most hockey players. Are you pretty good in school?
I held my own. I wasn't the greatest. I got by, I guess. I think, as you stated, as years go by, as we age, the experience comes in. So
we learn from all those mistakes we made.
That's right. No, I was I don't want to say a jock. I played a lot of sports. My two loves are hockey and soccer. I played soccer to a high level till I was 19, basically, until I had to go off and play pro hockey.
Right.
And to this day, I still follow the EPL and the Scottish League and so on. So,
who's your squad over there, Kirk?
Well, Glasgow Rangers are my Scottish team, but Manchester United, I'm a Man U guy.
Tom, those are soccer teams. I broke football.
Now, where'd you play junior hockey?
Oshawa Generals. Yeah, so not far down the road from where I grew up. Lucky enough, at that time now it's pretty much a suburb of Metro Toronto, but that time it was a little bit of a road trip at 40 minutes or so. So I was lucky enough, we had Sunday night home games, and my parents were able to drive down for most of them, along with my childhood friends. So I had a lot of support when I was in.
But you moved to Oshawa though, right?
I had to move there. We built it out, went to school there, and all that kind of stuff. Made some great friends who I still stay in contact with, as well as my Toronto friends. Became friends with a lot of my high school friends in Oshawa, Whitby area, and I think still to this day stay in contact with each other. Ironically, a lot of my Toronto friends have now moved out there, or they have families and are living in the Ajax, Pickering, Whitby area. So it's full circle.
The Pickering power plant, right? Isn't that what's
Glen Healy. That's where the Heels is from. Yeah.
So how old were you when you left to go to Oshawa?
I was 17. I was actually drafted as a 16-year-old.
Right.
So an underage draft at the time, and at that time you had to be drafted in the first 3 rounds if you were underage, and I got drafted in the 3rd round. Myself and my parents and my midget coach, we decided to stay back and play another year of midget for my development. We found that going as a 16-year-old, I probably wasn't going to get a lot of ice time, which I wouldn't have, because at the time Paul Terrio, who also I believe assistant coach in New York at some point, was my coach, and he was a big believer in a veteran team. So Peter Sidorkiewicz was the goalie.
Oh, okay.
And he played all the games. So I would have probably at 16 years old just been basically a practice goalie and maybe got 10 games in. And it was almost like that the next year, because Peter came back as an overage, and I backed up, and I think I got in maybe 20 games as a 17-year-old. So it was the right decision to stay back and experience that, and it worked out for the best in the long run.
That's interesting that you guys made that decision. I mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
People would just say, I want to go, right?
Yeah. Well, as you know now, the kids there's kids going out west anyways. I think there's 15-year-olds for crying out loud out. It's way too young. I know the game's getting younger, but that's a big jump. 15, 16-year-olds, going away from home and playing against, 17 to 20-year-olds. I mean, it's a big difference in maturity and physical part of it as well.
Yeah, even the moving away from home. I was drafted by Peterborough. Yeah, I was drafted by Peterborough when Roger Nielsen was coaching.
Yeah,
and I went to camp and ultimately didn't make it. I think it was more because of the whole off ice culture. I just wasn't ready. I grew up on the farm and talked to a few guys like Richie Pilon was like that.
Yep.
He really didn't play junior hockey. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, no, huge jumps, and I don't think it's people or parents really understand that. I mean, it's a little different now, I think, because the way the game has changed and the way the business part of the game, I guess, even through junior hockey now, they run it like a big time business, and they accommodate to the players, if you will, a lot more than back in the day. Not saying that they didn't, because they did.
Yeah, it was slap shot. It was slap shot back then.
It was 100%.
So how many years did you play at Oshawa?
3 years. I got my 3 years in. At the end of my last year, when we got beat out in the playoffs, I got called up. So I played my first 2 games in the National Hockey League at 19 with the Devils, because I was drafted by the Devils. So it was late in the year. So I guess early April, Devils weren't making the playoffs back then. The old Mickey Mouse team that Wayne at 99 called them. But it was a great experience. I can remember it vividly. Last 3 games it was. So I get called up into Quebec. Didn't play, just backed up that game. then the last 2 games were against the Islanders, who were at the end of their dynasty. And, well, I guess it would have been about 4 or 5 minutes. 5 minutes, this is literally 5 minutes into the game. And at Nassau Coliseum, we're down 4-0. And I'm like, oh, my God. Oh, my God.
And you're in for all 4?
No, I didn't start that game. Alain Chevier was the goalie at that time. And, Doug Carpenter, who was the coach, gives me the tap. And I'm like, oh, my God. So I go in. We ended up losing 7-3 or something like that. So they got another 3 on me in pretty much a full game. And it was eye-opening, obviously, because they still had everybody. They, Bossy, Nystrom, Gillies, Trottier, Potvin, Billy Smith in the nets. And it was quite, my first save was a breakaway against Clark Gillies.
That's all right.
That was pretty cool.
Now, had you been to camp before?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I'd been to, so 84 I was drafted. So I'd been to 3 camps, I guess it was. So I knew a lot of the guys and was familiar. And
But still, that's your first game. That's your first game, right?
first game, yeah. Playing against the Islanders, for crying out loud. And then the next night we go back, and it's the last game of the season, and I get to start in New Jersey and pull off the win. And the first win was a big one, 9-7.
Wow.
We won. We're going into the third period. We were up 5-3, but we pulled it off.
Wow. I'm playing defense for that team?
Yeah. I think everybody was just
Yeah. Especially last game of the year, that's a tough one.
They were booking their summer holidays between the second and third.
Right. Because they were all good guys, but this is the last game of the year. You're not making
exactly.
So
Exactly. They've been crushed the whole season, and they just wanted to get out of there. No, it was great because I played with Joe. Well, I didn't get a chance to play with Joe Sorelli in junior, but I played with John McLean. So Joe and John were in New Jersey, obviously. Joe being a Oshawa general as well, but had a first round draft pick to Colorado at the time, and then they moved to New Jersey. So I was familiar with some of the players through the Oshawa system as well.
What round?
I was drafted 6th round.
That's a good round. That's my round.
Yeah, well, back then, yeah. I mean, it wasn't popular for goaltenders back then, as you know, to be drafted high. It was very rare, but it was a good draft year for the Devils at that time. Craig Billington went second pick in the 2nd round.
Wow.
And Chris Terreri went round 7. I went 6. Terreri went 7. Following year, Sean Burke.
Oh, wow.
And then we all know 4 or 5 years later, Martin Brodeur, was the pick then. So we had a plethora. So there was the 4 of us that I just talked about. And then, Chico just retired. He was at a few camps I was at. Ron Lowe was at a few camps I was at. And they were all just retiring. Bob Sauvé. And then Alain Chevier came out of nowhere, University of Miami, I think it was. And he was the sacrificial lamb for about 3 years before they developed the 3 or 4 of us that could kind of step in and take over. He did a good job for him, believe me. He was he was the guy that came out of kind of nowhere that they went with for 3 years or so.
Well, it was either him or Hanno Campori, right?
Yeah, well, Hanno Campuri was there. Yes, exactly. Carl Friesen.
You pulled that out of your ass.
Come on.
Come up with that. He's got his computer open. That's where he takes that.
Yeah. Carl Friesen came out of there, who was a Manitoba boy or a Saskatchewan boy, I can't remember, who played for the German national team and was the goalie for quite a while back in that era.
Yeah, Totowa, New Jersey was a hotbed of goaltending.
Yes.
What was Chico Mesh like? Was he
Chico Resch?
Yeah, Chico Mesh we called him.
Yeah. Chico was fantastic. We all see Chico. He's just a fun-loving guy, and he was at the end of his career, so he was moving into the broadcasting booth. He was just that happy-go-lucky guy. He'd go in the net. I don't think I've ever heard a swear word come out of his mouth. He was just, gosh darn it, and he was a competitor. He had a wonderful career, Stanley Cup champion. What can you say?
He was funny. I scored on him late in his career, and he made some comment in the paper. He says, the worst part is that guy scored on me. Like that's why I called him Chico Mesh, because he was like
that guy.
Yeah.
That would be him.
So how many years did you spend in New Jersey?
Well, basically just first 3 years of training camp. That year, I came up and played the last week of the game or the season, and then the following year, we kind of rotated through the minors and the big club. We were Maine Mariners in the American Hockey League, and like I said, myself, Chris, and Craig Billington kind of rotated. After Craig had already played basically a full year when he was 18, they kept him up and almost played a full year, and then sent him back to Belleville. They were doing that back to a lot of players back then.
Right.
John McLean, the same thing. He stayed up and played a full year. Joe Sorella. You know, we had a few of them. Todd Charlesworth, if you remember that name, he was a defenseman, defenseman in Pittsburgh. He got called up for a whole year.
Was it Lou running the team at that point?
No, Lou traded me. No, it was Max McNabb.
Oh, okay.
Max McNabb.
I don't remember that happening. Yeah, I don't remember that too much in our organization. Guys playing a year and then go back to junior, and that was rare.
Yeah. No, it was kind of odd. The years of the Devils back in the day.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe that's why there's the Mickey Mouse group back there. Definitely. So you get traded to Vancouver.
Yeah. Training camp of 87. Drive down early with John McLean. We left Oshawa and drove to New Jersey. I guess a week or two before, just to skate with the guys as we did back then. We didn't really skate through the summer, and go through the whole process of getting ready for camp. First day of training camp, we go in. First day of training camp, we don't even go in. I get a phone call, getting ready to go do our testing, and I'm staying at John's, and it was at that time Bob Hoffmeyer, who just retired and who was becoming who was assistant coach, just said, Lou wants to speak to you. So Max had retired. This was Lou's first year on the job. Right. And when you get that call, okay, something's up. Yeah. And so I go in, and first time I meet him, hi, we've made a trade and you're part of the trade, but we can't tell you who else is involved, which ended up being Greg Adams. And at that time, because the facts hadn't gone through to the league, and they had to wait for all that kind of stuff. So I go, okay, thanks for letting me know. A little disappointed, but it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that they had a little stable of goaltenders, and something was going to happen. So off I go, go back and let John know I get traded, and packing up, heading to the airport to fly out to Vancouver. No time to get back to the Oshawa area to collect anything. I'm just whatever I had for training camp, I'm taking with me to Vancouver. I get on the plane, or I'm getting on the plane, and just passing me was Dave Anderson, Glenn's brother, who I roomed with in Maine for my first year. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I just got traded." And he said, "Oh, got you." So whatever, we shook hands, and see you down the road or whatever. And I'm sitting on the plane. I still don't know who I'm traded with. And then last boarding call, on comes Greg Adams, and I'd known Greg because we attended in '84. We attended a get together midsummer in New Jersey where they brought the draft picks and free agents and whatever, and Mel Bridgman and who was the captain at the time, brought everybody out and showed them New York and New Jersey and all that kind of stuff. And then Greg signs on as a free agent for 2 years. Out of, I think it was University of Arizona. They didn't even they weren't even in the league. All they did was play tournaments.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Kirk, we talked about this with Tom before. When you get traded, are you like immediately trying to find out who you got traded for? Because Tom famously says he was traded for Marcel Dion, but are you like, who they get for?
Yeah, well, it was Patrick Sundstrom, right? So it was Greg Adams and I for Patrick Sundstrom.
What was your reaction to that? Like, so my ego kicked in right away. I was like,
I hadn't really established myself, or I was the throw-in at the end of the day. So it was basically Greg Adams for Patrick Sundstrom, and then I was kind of the unknown goalie throw-in. But at the end of the day, was scouted at the time by Bob McCammon, who was scouting and saw me a lot down in Maine, and Brian Burke, who was a player agent at the time, who had a bunch of guys. I was staying in myself and Dave were living in Frank Bay's place in Old Orchard Beach in Portland, Maine, or in Maine, and Stevie DeJure was living in Bob McCammon's units in the same place. So Bob was down there scouting, I think at the time for Edmonton, I'm not sure, and obviously was familiar with Portland from his days in Philadelphia. And Brian, his days in Philadelphia, played in for the Maine Mariners and the minors, and then they get shipped out, or they sign with Vancouver as coach and assistant GM, and then Pat Quinn, leaves LA and goes through that whole legal thing where he's now in Vancouver. So we land in Vancouver. I get a history lesson. I'd never been to Vancouver. I'd been as far as Calgary. Oh. And I'm getting a history lesson from Greg. And it was just fantastic. Yeah. It was, obviously a beautiful city. We flew in at night, so I didn't get a chance to see I just saw the lights. And then the next morning, of course, wake up to boom. Yeah. A mountain surrounding city, and just fell in love with it right on the bus, and over to the island for training camp in Duncan, BC.
Oh, that's right. So were you Lou Lamoriello's first trade then?
Mm-hmm.
Probably. Wow, that's
yeah, yeah. And I've never seen him since. I haven't talked to him since. Wow. Even the times that in the arenas or here at Rogers, when the Islanders come in, I know he still makes road trips, but I've never talked to him.
That's funny. Wow, never seen you, Kirk. You're traded.
Yeah, exactly.
The job. And the other important factor, Greg Adams married our old trainer's daughter, Jerry Maloney's daughter.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, who are no longer together.
Yes. Well, it's hockey.
Things happen.
It's almost a miracle. If a hockey player stays married after his career, it's a miracle right there.
Like, they have two wonderful kids together, though.
Oh, do they? Nice. Yeah. We were talking before about Larry Melnick, right? Like, he's the grouchiest man on the planet, but he stays married. The rest of he's getting divorced all the time.
Yeah.
So what happens in Vancouver then? Do you become the number one guy right away?
Pretty much. Richard Brodeur was still here, so the King was still here, and Frank Caprice were the two goaltenders. They just, I forget who they just traded away. Oh, Wendell Young. They just moved, traded. I think he went to Pittsburgh, I think it was. And so there was the three of us. So we did a rotation of three goalies for the first half of the season, and then they sent Frank down to the minors, and then Richard and I we played until the trading deadline. They traded Richard to Hartford, and then one of your old friends, Steve Weeks, came in from Hartford. Right. So Weeksy and I, he was kind of my mentor, which was great. But I still ended up getting 41, 42 games in that year. So it was a good introduction to the starting goaltender, if you will. And then Weeksy and I played for the next couple of years, and Weeksy was wonderful.
Yeah.
I couldn't have asked for a better partner. He really showed me how to be a pro.
I remember they kind of assigned him to Trevor Linden too to help him out because he was a rookie, I think, then too, right?
Yeah, Trevor came in '89. Okay. So a couple years later, yeah.
Right. Yeah, Weeksy was a real played college with him. He was kind of that different guy in that he was like really intelligent guy sitting in the room studying all the time. And we're like,
in phenomenal shape. Yeah. And his work ethic was second to none. So. He was a good guy for me at that time because I was still kind of, had that young kind of attitude and still maybe had a little bit of baby fat on me where I had to shred a little bit of that. And I definitely needed Weeksy at that time.
So where are we at now? Is it like 89, 90?
That would have been, 89, 90. Yeah, 89, 90, 91. We went through a bunch of, Weeksy had moved on. And then there was we had Bob Mason came in for a bit. Troy Gamble, was a high draft pick he was a first round draft pick for the Canucks and highly touted. He came in for a bit. And then
how does that make you feel, Kirk?
It was fine. We had great relationships. And this year I just saw Troy for the first time in 25, 26 years. He's living down in Houston where he's settled, and we came up for an alumni event, and it was wonderful. I always had a great relationship for whoever came in. Yeah. It was obviously it was a healthy working relationship as far as pushing each other, and that's what you need. But off the ice, we had great relationships. There was no animosity, or we didn't have the doll out pushing the pins into it. It was it was just a good, healthy working relationship. And then Troy, and then Kay Whitmore came in, and we were together for close to 5 years. Wow. And Kay and I were rivals from minor hockey. When he was coming out of Sudbury, we'd be in tournaments, and then of course he was in Peterborough, Oshawa, Peterborough, the big rivalry. And then he was a high draft pick to Hartford, and then we become partners for a good 3 to 5 years. Yeah.
Kirk has a monster year in '92. He's second, fourth in Hart voting. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good year. Things were going well with the club. It took a little bit. We went through some rough years from '87 to about '89. We got into the '89 season. We got into the playoffs. We lose to Calgary in the first round, who goes on to win the cup. But Pat had made a few trades and brought in some veteran players to kind of get us over that hump. We lose in Game 7. The Joel Otto kicked in goal that is we like to think it was kicked in, right. And they go on to win. But that was the beginning of the change in Vancouver, if you will. Then he pieced together good teams leading into '94 or '95, so a 5-year stretch where the early 90s, we were actually challenging for President's trophies, and then we would get through the first round, and then we just couldn't get over that hump. So we were underachieving from myself out in the playoffs, and then of course 94 comes along where we had a good team. We back into the playoffs. Really, it was complete opposite, where we struggled through the year for some reason, and then I think we solidified a playoff spot in 4 or 5 games left in the season, and then do what we do in the playoffs, where it all comes together. And it's weird the way it happens, you know.
He's being very modest, but he's also was credited at the time for the save of the century in that Calgary series. You want to talk about that, Kirk?
Well, I like to think that it's still the save of the century. You know, at the end of the day, you know, like what I was saying, we were getting labeled as a team, you know, and then of course as a goaltender that couldn't, you know, get the team to the next level. And I'd be lying to you if I said it didn't weigh on you a little bit, especially, you know, in the Canadian markets where the media is, you know, crazy.
Sure.
And can be pretty harsh. And you know, we try to block that out as much as we can, but when it's like daily and
totally
always, it's tough to do. So I'm, you know, you start doubting yourself a little bit. Oh, can I do this? You know, do I have what it takes? Is my skill level or my character enough to get us over this hump? Can I take that team to the next level, make that big save, whatever it may be? And 94 comes along. We win the first game in Calgary. We shut them out, actually. Then we lose the next 3 games, and again, you're feeling the heat from the fans and the media, and then Pat was coaching at the time, and the whole coaching staff was fantastic. You know, they're very, very good with us. They keep us loose, and you know, just pick away, shift. The old cliches came out, shift by shift, you know, game by game, and we really did that because we won the next 3 games in overtime, right? So we had to take it right to if we couldn't beat them in 60 minutes, we're going to do it in the next 20 minutes, so 90 minutes or whatever it took. And that's the way we approached it. And then of course we get into double overtime, game 7. They'd had several chances leading up to the Reichel save, you know, very good chances. Actually one at the end of the third period where Al McGinnis had an unbelievable shot coming in, and I made a good save, and then we get into the overtime. Theo's coming down with Reichel on a 2-on-1, and you know, Theo earlier in the game was in the same situation. He scored on me, tweeners between the legs, and so, you know, the player that Theo was a pretty damn good player, and he could do it all. He could pass, he could shoot, and he was nifty, obviously, because of his size. You know, he's on his off wing, and I'm going, oh my God, the same situation here. Is he going to shoot it, or is he going to come across the net, or is he going to come around the net? And I read the play, read the pass, and timed it perfectly with the 2-pad slide, which was in a goalie's arsenal back then. You know, it worked out. And then, you know, the beginning of the second overtime, Jeff Brown makes an unbelievable pass to Pavel Bure, and then Pavel Bure's going 100 miles an hour, and then basically skates it into the net past Vernie at the time, and boom, the rest is history. We just kind of rolled through the playoffs into the Cup finals, and you know, it was just an amazing run.
Talk about that game 1 in the Garden too, because Kirk stood on his head and still.
Yeah. But before I go any further, I mean, Greg Adams scores the tying goal against Calgary late in the third period. We don't even get into overtime unless he scores that goal. I think there's like three minutes left to tie it up. So people forget that, right? You know, he was a big time player and came up with some big time goals, you know, all the time in big time situations. So I have to give Greg a shout out for that.
Cool.
But
very cool.
You know, going into, you know, game 1 in the Garden, you know, we're all excited, and we're getting police escorts to the arena, all that kind of stuff. It's going down one-way streets the wrong way in Manhattan.
Right.
And we thought it was quite humorous, but you know, it was one of those games. You know, the hockey world and the team always says you have to go in and steal a game or two in the playoffs, and you know, that was a game where I was obviously on, and 52, 53, whatever the amount was, and we come out on top in that first overtime, where Greg Adams scores the overtime goal from a nice pass from Cliff Ronning, I believe.
That's why Lou doesn't talk to you anymore.
Yeah, that's right. But you know, that was a great series again. We go down 3-1.
Yeah.
we pick away. I can remember, we come back to Vancouver. So we play the first 2 games, split in New York, and then we come back, and then we lose game 3 and game 4.
You split 1 and 2, didn't you?
Yeah, we split 1 and 2, and then we come back. We lose 3 and 4, was it?
Yeah. You guys won. That's won
right.
game 5 at the.
And then we come back. We come back and win game 5. I think that's how it was, or game 5, because game 6 was in Vancouver.
No, it would have been the first 2 in New York, last 2 in New York, right?
No.
Yeah, that's right.
It was 2-3-1-1. Was
it was 2-2-1-1-1.
Yeah.
Oh, was it 2-2-1-1-1?
Yeah, that was.
Okay. That's a long time ago.
So you're down 3-1. You're looking at that lineup with you had a good lineup yourself. There you go, Mark.
We had a great lineup. Yeah. They had obviously a very experienced lineup with who they had in there, and a lot of cups over there too, right? And it was a hard fought battle. And again, we pick away. There were some weird games. Game 6 in Vancouver where the puck goes what they thought was in the net or went in the net, but it was we scored already down the other end. They came down and scored. So I think we left the ice surface with like 2-3 minutes left in the period, right. And then they checked the video, and I don't know I can't remember how it worked. I was not worried about any of that kind of stuff, and then we came out. They didn't score, and we tied it up anyways. And we went on to win game 6, and then the game 7, and it's crapshoot then, right?
So how are you feeling? Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah,
come back from being down. You got to be tired physically and mentally too, right?
Oh, totally. We got an extra day's rest, and to this day, a lot of people think that extra day's rest benefited the Rangers at the time because they were an older team, and it was a super physical series, and all the shenanigans that go on with playoff hockey, airplanes or airports and luggage coming out late, and something's going missing maybe for a day or 2, and yada yada yada. Both cities trying to do whatever it took to help their team win. And again, it was a hard fought game in game 7. It went down to the wire. We hit the post with 6 minutes left to tie it up, and we lose 3-2. We come up short from our goal. Hugely disappointing, obviously, because you play to win, and bridesmaids is not what you're looking for. But at the end of the day, when you reflect, it was a wonderful experience for the city. They did it in '82 against the Islanders, where they weren't supposed to get there as well. Totally outclassed, obviously, against the Islanders at that time. But this 94 team, somehow to this day, even though the team in 2011 do the same thing, to this day, that 94 team and the players of that 94 team still hold a special place in BC and Vancouverites. It's amazing. It really is. And 2011, they were an incredible hockey team. That's the team that should have won it at the end of the day. They were President's Cup, all that kind of stuff, and go up 2 games to nothing and end up obviously losing it, as we know.
So you look back at that 94 and say, yeah, you wanted to win, but you got to be really proud of yourself too, individually as a team. Yeah.
Totally. What we went through and what we did as a team, super proud. And that was the feeling in the locker room afterwards. And, everybody's not saying anything. What can you say? It was crickets in there, and some emotional players some players are emotional. But I'm looking over at a guy like Murray Craven, who that was his third kick at the can. He had a couple with Philadelphia and couldn't close the deal then, and then with us, and how many players get a chance to be there once, let alone 3 times, and not bring it home. So I was feeling bad for a guy like Murray.
Sure. Now, did you ever get back there again?
No, we got to the conference finals, but never to the finals. Yeah.
And how many more years did you spend in Vancouver?
I got traded away in 98, right. 98, the early part of 98. So 11 years I was here in Vancouver. So another 97 years. That was kind of things were kind of Messier came to the team. We made that signing. I think originally they were trying to get Wayne, and things kind of fell through. And then Mark was available. Mark came in, and things were looking up. Then it took a hard right turn right from the beginning. We played our first 2 games in Japan, and that's when there was a little bit of controversy where Mark ended up getting taking the captaincy off of Trevor, and yada. Yeah. So pulling an unofficial retired number out of the stand, Wayne Mackey's number 11 out of the rafters, and so it was just a kind of leading up to Pat Quinn getting fired and then Keenan coming in and yada yada yada. That was a tough time and a dark time for Vancouver, that whole era. And then there was a series of trades. Myself, Martin Gelinas being the first. We got traded to Carolina, and then it was a trickle effect to some of the other guys from that era.
Was that a surprise for you when you get traded?
It was.
Yeah.
I was, things weren't going well. We were struggling. It came out of the blue. I was not aware of it, because usually you get, you hear rumors, or, your agent will give you a ring and say, listen, they're maybe thinking of that. It just completely came out of the blue. I got a call one night. Steve Tambellini, who was the acting assistant GM or the acting GM with Keenan, they were kind of co-GMs, saying that I'd been traded, and that was it.
Wow. Yeah.
I went down to the rink the next day and grabbed my gear, and I didn't get a chance to see any of the guys, nothing.
Yeah.
It was just, see you later.
So was Carolina your last stop then?
No. I went to Carolina. So it was myself, Martin Gelinas traded for Sean Burke, Enrico Ciccone, and Sanderson. So, no, I went there. Jim Rutherford was the GM at the time, who was the GM here. I got there. I was completely devastated. I've still never gotten over the trade, to be honest with you. I bleed the colors here in Vancouver, and thought I was really going to finish it out. Maybe I was obviously a little naive. We go there, and they were a new team, expansion team, or not expansion team. Hartford went there, so a relocation team. They're based out of Raleigh, playing out of Greensboro. So home games were like almost an hour and a half away.
Oh, really?
So we'd have our pregame skates in Raleigh, and then drive to Greensboro to have our pregame meal, which was set up in a hotel where guys could have day rooms and all that kind of stuff, and then the drive back afterwards, for a home game. So it was, it was fantastic. Don't get me wrong. They did everything for the players that they could to make the players feel comfortable at the time. They had it set up at a golf membership, and which was fantastic. And the city of Raleigh was awesome. It was just a weird situation, and so I ended up asking to be traded at the deadline. So I was only really there for 3 months.
Oh, okay.
And then moved to got traded to the Panthers at the end at the end there, and then played another year with the Panthers. Played out my contract, and ironically enough, Sean Burke comes down. Oh. So there was Sean and I the next year as the goaltenders there, which was fantastic. And Sean had we kind of alternated, but Sean had a really good year. And then contracts up. A new age of kind of goaltender was coming in, and I was hoping to come back to Vancouver, to be quite honest with you, to finish it out, maybe sign another deal in Vancouver. Berkey had come back as the GM here in Vancouver. Dan Kluche was the goaltender, so I thought, well, it's kind of a good scenario. Berkey's here, and maybe I can sign on and be a mentor for Kluche. I was in the headspace. Listen, I'm ready to be the number 2 guy and just help out the newer, younger goaltender. And it's, for some reason, Berkey didn't want to do it. He thought that my style of play was on its way out, and he wanted a different feel. And so New York called, and I signed for 2 years there, and it was fantastic.
You wanted to be my neighbor. That's what it was, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Wayne Gretzky always said if any player could experience 1 year in New York, they should. And he's bang on. It was fabulous the 2 years that I was there. And, fabulous organization. And they are second to none. They treat you like rock stars. And as you know, anywhere you go in the world, there's some kind of connection.
Yeah.
That's the capabilities they have. And it was awesome.
Who was the other goaltender while you were here?
Ricky.
Oh, he was. Okay. Well.
Yeah. And then, he had a lot of injury issues, so there was a couple of guys come up from the minors a few times. And then Guy Hebert came in the second year near the end. Muck was the coach the first year.
Right.
And then he got fired. Mess came back, kind of took over the show. Ron Lowe came in as the coach, and, I think, and Sather came in.
Right.
Smith was the GM prior to that.
That's right.
So it became the Mark and Slat show at the end.
That's it. They do have big personalities, those guys.
Yeah. So it was it was it was an interesting dynamic.
So you had 2 years in New York, and that was it then?
And that was it. Yeah. Again, when I finished, again, I was going to try and come back to Vancouver for a year or two if I could. I had my little adventure getting traded away. Did I have a chance to go to Europe or whatever for a couple of years? I never really pursued it. Something maybe it would have happened, but I didn't want to. I just wanted to be in Vancouver.
Right.
And if it wasn't going to happen in Vancouver, finishing my career off, I was happy enough to hang it up and go out on my own.
Yeah, because you've had a pretty good career, right? A 6th-round draft.
Yeah. No, it was. The only regrets is that we couldn't bring a cup, or I couldn't win a cup. But it was certainly a good ride. I'm involved with the team now on an ambassador role, thoroughly heavily involved. And then I'm a board member on our alumni here. So it's like I said, I bleed the colors here, and I'm still want to be part of it to bring a cup here to Vancouver.
So now
in any capacity.
Right. So now the game ends for you. And a lot of guys have a hard time when the game ends. Were you able to move on pretty easily?
It was a good transition. When I was here, we have a wonderful alumni here. I may sound biased, but arguably the best in the league. I made it. It was a purpose for me when I was playing here to get to know the alumni guys here, just because of what could happen life after hockey. And so it was an easy transition that way to break into alumni hockey. I took probably a full year off of really, not doing anything, just kind of soaking it all in, and did a bit of traveling, and play some golf, and then I slowly worked my way into the alumni hockey, and it was great because I knew a lot of the older guys at the time, the Kurtenbachs and the Odlitsons and Jerry Sillers, who was our president at the time, and Gary Bromley, the goaltender, Cesar Maniago, guys like that. So they're wonderful. Yeah. And it was so easy to make that transition. And I was lucky enough to kind of get back into the game in some capacity with the Canucks when the pay-per-view situation was happening, and everybody thought that was going to be the next thing. So I did kind of like the analyst type of thing on the pay-per-view for 2-3 years. And then that kind of blew up where people weren't going to pay on their TV to watch their home team. And so that kind of went down the wayside, and things again were in a transition with the club as far as the team wasn't doing well. They were struggling. I did apply for the goaltending coach position, and I think Richard Berdeur did as well at the time, and we did all our interviews and everything, but they ended up going with Ian Clark, who their goaltender is right now. And so I went on and did some stuff with Colorado. Oh, some old friends. Craig Billington was part of the player personnel. He put the word in. Who was Sylvain Lefebvre, who I played with in New York, was one of the assistant coaches, and also Eric Lacroix. So Eric was kind of like the assistant GM at the time, or acting GM or whatever. And so they asked if I'd come in on a consultant basis. I'd base out of Vancouver and then kind of piece my way. Their farm club was in Cleveland, the Lake Erie Monsters. At that time, Abbotsford Heat were here, so Calgary. So I had a chance to go see when they come here, and I do spot duty. I'd fly into Colorado, fly into Cleveland, and work with the goaltenders. So that was an awesome experience. Did that for 3 years, pretty much. Coming out of the lockout year, they made some changes. Patrick Waugh came in, and obviously brought all his guys in, and at that time, back into Vancouver and established the ambassador role and the ambassador job with the team, and I've been here since doing my role here since what I guess it would have been 2012. So it's awesome.
Let's be honest though. Like the one bad thing is got to deal with Larry Melnick.
Yeah. Well, we don't see Larry much anymore. We did, on our Monday night skates. Larry would come out and of course, he loves to play golf. And, so he's at every golf event. Right. He still thinks he can hit it a mile, but he can't. He hits it a mile left or a mile right, never down the middle.
See, he doesn't tell me that.
Yeah. He won't accept that he is getting older and the ball doesn't go as far anymore. Yeah. But he's fun to be around. He enjoys it. He's a character. Yeah. He can be moody, and he can rub people the wrong way most of the time. But as we all know, at the behind the scenes, he's an awesome dude, and has a big heart.
Yeah, definitely. Were you there when he threw the skate at Bob McCammon?
I was. I was.
He tells that story.
That was in Winnipeg. I can see it right now. We come off the ice and Bob's ripping into everybody, and the way he can, sarcastically, cagey, and as he's walking out the door, Larry, you can see it coming. Larry just wails his skate at him, and I'm telling you, the door just closed just in time, or else he would have took it right on the head. Oh my God, it was crazy. I mean, we all looked at Larry and go, "What the fuck are you doing, man?" I mean, you could have ripped the guy's head off. Larry could get pretty emotional, and as tough as he was a tough character, and he held his own out in the ice. He didn't take any crap from anyone, whoever it may have been. And Larry was kind of like the older statesman at the time, defenseman. He was the veteran guy coming in that we needed, and he wasn't happy.
He tells me that Jack McLean came to the next season. They made him captain or something like that. That's part of the reason.
Captain or assistant captain for sure. Yeah, no, Mel was he was good in the locker room. I mean, he could he said the right things a lot of times in the locker room, and he led by example, definitely out on the ice, without a doubt. And even speaking to the younger guys, he was very good. He wasn't in your face. He would pull you aside, and the constructive criticism would be bang on for the most part.
Good guy. Yes, definitely. Good friend of mine.
Yeah.
So I think I know the answer with you, but any regrets looking back at your life for your career?
Just not bringing back a cup. That's it. But other than that, no. It was a wonderful ride, and I've met some great people throughout the game, and continued to meet the people. And of course, when we're traveling the globe, wherever it may be, we run into somebody all the time, and it was incredible. It's been good to me. It continues to be good to me, and we all love to give back, which we do. I just came back from the island, a week on the island. We did a community outreach program that we have. So we were in Port Hardy, Port McNeil, some of these Campbell River, some of these places where they don't get a chance to see Canuck players very often, or get a chance to get over to the mainland to see the games, and did some clinics, and it was fantastic. Still heavily involved with our alumni board. Myself, Dave Babich, Jyrki Lumi do this thing called First Shift, which I'm sure you guys have in New York. I think every city has it, and it's a learn to play organization, and we get to get out with the kids and hang out and pass whatever we can. It's more the parents now at our age that enjoy us coming out, rather than the 6 to 12-year-olds. But it's quite fun, and we enjoy it, and no regrets. It's fun getting back out in the community and maybe reliving some memories that the parents have, and telling stories and having some laughs. But
I've heard he's a great guy, but Dave Babich goes down in history as the hairiest man in the history.
Oh yeah, he's the nicest guy in the world. Other than Adam Graves. Yeah, him and Adam Graves are battling it out for the nicest person in the world. But yes, he's the big Ukrainian, and he's the only place he's missing any hair is on the top of his head.
I'm just thinking that. Yeah. I've heard so many great things about him also. That's fantastic.
Yeah, no, he's incredible person, as is Jyrki Lumi.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Kirk, thank you very much for coming on the show. I know we don't know each other that well. We got to know each other here when you're in New York, but I've always been impressed by you. I mean, like, you really came across as that intelligent, thoughtful guy, and I really think it showed here in the last 50 minutes too while we're talking. So thank you very much for coming on the show. Good to see you.
Well, I appreciate it, and thanks for inviting me. I know Larry always said you got to get on the show, but good luck with what you're doing right now. It's I always enjoyed watching the clips in the past, and I'll continue to watch you. And I'd like to say go Rangers go, but I gotta say go Canucks go.
There you go.
Thank you, guys.
Good to see you, Kirk.
Well, that was really cool, Tom, because we get to hear from probably the last great stand-up goaltender, and B, to hear his perspective, because we hear about the '94 Cup all the time, but we never hear the other side. And I mean, he played so good. He stole that game and almost stole the series. To hear his take was pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty humble guy too, right? He's a 6th-round draft pick of the Devils, and fight through all this stuff. And the way he says it's just keep moving forward all the time. It's actually very inspirational, I think, because it's a good lesson for everybody. Just it never seemed to be overthinking things. He just knew he had to show up every day and do his job.
Show up, work hard. And you're a 6th-round draft pick, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
Definitely.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a correlation there.
Smart guy. That's why. Just like
one of you are. Great show.
Good job. All right, Grasshoppers, thank you for listening. We had a fantastic show. We'll see you next time.